I'm Paula Doyle, and today I'm going to show you how I use old jeans and flannel shirts to make my quilts. It's sort of like harvesting your jeans, and the jeans that I usually pick are the ones that have had a good life and I'm just not prepared to repair anymore. This one I can actually see I've done some repairs. So what I do is I take my scissors, and I usually use some nice trusty scissors like that, and I'm just going to cut out the useful bits of fabric on the jeans. I start here at the cuff, put the shirt to one side for the moment, and can you see this? I'm just going to cut right along that felled seam on the jeans. And I don't really want to use that in the patchwork anyway, so instead of trying to unpick anything, I just cut it out. So I'm cutting up the inner leg of the jean here on the back. Here we go. If it's really frayed badly, I'm not going to want to use that in the patchwork too, so I do try to avoid keeping those worn bits. And now all I'm going to do is cut off underneath that pocket, and I'll show you why I'm going to keep that pocket section a little bit later. So here you see, now all I need to do is cut along this seam here, and I'm going to have most of a leg and the pocket. So it's going to be a piece that looks a lot like this one that I did. Go ahead and keep all of the bits that you can of the jeans, because you're going to be able to use them all in your patchwork. So that one would be obviously big enough to cut a square, but sometimes you have pieces that are a lot smaller, like this one here you see, and that one you can still use in something. Also, keep those pockets, because those will come in handy too, and you'll see what I'm saying. And you can even use the cut-off seams, because you can make a rag rug with them or something like that. So that's how I get the denim that I need for my patchwork. And I love the old jeans because they're worn, and they have a really nice warm quality. So that's some fabric ready to go into the patchwork. I do the same thing with the shirts. I just cut out the useful bits. Shirts wear in a couple of different places, like along the cuffs. That's a place you want to not necessarily keep, and sometimes the elbows. So do watch for worn bits of fabric along those. When I do a shirt, I'm going to cut the placket off, which is the button bit, but make sure you leave about, at least, I'm going to say up to an inch beyond the placket. And again, you'll see why, because you can use that placket in a lot of different things, in a lot of different ways. So the first thing I do, I cut that bit of the placket off. There we are. So that's half the placket. The other half is the bit with the buttonholes, of course. So do the same on that side when you're cutting it off and salvaging your shirt fabric. There we go. So there's half of the placket cut off. And now I simply salvage as much fabric as I can around the other bits. I don't bother about whether or not I cut around any buttons, including those ones that are already buttoned in the collar. And then I'm just going to cut around the seams, just like I did um, with the jeans. Now, one of the reasons I like to use flannel from shirts is that it's usually a very, very good quality fabric, and it's usually a woven flannel rather than a printed flannel. So that means that it's the same on the front as it is on the back, and so I can use those interchangeable. And I like to do that. Um, you can, of course, buy flannel if you don't have enough shirts to harvest. But we'll talk about that later. You really want to be looking for that woven flannel, not just a printed flannel. So here we go, just like that. I've harvested, well, the front side of this particular shirt. And again, go ahead and cut off those hems. You're not going to be using them in your patchwork, and you're certainly not going to be unpicking them. So just like that, I have a piece that big from the shirt to make into quilts. And this one here, also remember, I forgot about this, the back around the neck usually has two pieces of fabric, and it's usually the same fabric, so you'll get some fabric that way as well. And here you see you've got one entire shirt that's been deconstructed, and you can see you probably get about a meter of fabric or a yard of fabric. And here you see I've done the same thing with the seams. These are my cut off seams, and I have a plan eventually to maybe use those and make a braided rug or something. Now, yes, so now I have flannel fabric and I have jeans fabric to make the quilts. The other thing I use in my quilts is wadding or batting, and I usually tend to use these bits that are cut off from when you're making quilts, when you've sandwiched a quilt and then you just have a little bit of extra wadding. Those are great, and what you can do with those is you can simply rotary cut those into squares, and it just depends on what you're making. These happen to be 5-inch squares of wadding, and you can see how nice they look. And then with leftover bits, you can actually cut them into little bits with your scissors, or your rotary cutter. And this can be used as toy filling or cushion filling if you want. So that's how I harvest the fabrics. And now I just want to show you some of the projects that I've made with using jeans and flannel shirts. So you can see that I use flannel shirts, and sometimes I use chambray shirts too, because there's a lot of fabric in those, and you can see the different that I've made. And then you see you can use everything. Like here, remember the little stuffing little bits of wadding? I've made a biscuit quilt cushion out of chambray shirts, flannel shirts, and also those little bits of wadding that were left over from the from salvaging what came off the quilts. And on this one here, on the back side, you can see I've used little bits of denim. This is a pocket from one of the shirts. This is a placket of one of the shirts, and this is one of the jeans pockets. So you can actually use that jeans pocket for all sorts of things. If you have this cushion on by you and watching TV, you could keep a little tablet in there and maybe a pen. And then you could have that for if something interesting comes up if you want to write it down. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you come to one of my classes or online very soon. Bye.